right, everybody, welcome back. This is the Junto, and I'm Noah Sawyer. This is episode 35 on Tuesday, March 7th, 2026. And everyone is crazy. Everyone is completely insane, and it's making me also go completely insane. So that's that's the subject for tonight. It's just like everything is ramped up. Just it's all so next level at this point, which is, I mean, that's where I started with like New Year's Eve and everything. When I started this show, I was like, the next few years everything's going to become so unfathomably crazy, and no one's going to be able to make sense of any of it. Or not no one, but most people are going to have, like what I said on New Year's Eve, I believe, was worldviews are going to shatter in front of us. Like, people are going to clearly not be able to make sense of the world or themselves, what's going on, why it's happening, all that stuff. And that feels totally totally relevant lately after, well, who knows? I mean, it's been over a month of the war, and the news cycle for the war was just really incredible to behold. And I don't know, it's yeah, there's a handful of things I want to talk about, I guess. But today I went to a burger place, and I'm like an extremely frugal person. I typically never go to restaurants, and I started going to restaurants, like literally the first time I ever bought meat at a restaurant was when I decided that I wanted to start doing this show, which was at the very end of November, because I was like, okay, I just wanted to work in a way where I didn't have to cook for myself like literally every day. So I would do that a couple times a week, and that has continued as the show has gone on. But anyway, I was in there, and there was a boy. There's a like four-year-old boy, maybe five, and he he was there with his dad, and his dad was just on his phone, and the boy was just like really like asking him questions and trying to get his attention, and his dad was just like dead face, like just staring at his phone. And that was crazy. That was very disturbing to me. And so just all these little experiences like that have been happening on top of the fact that the Iran war news cycle has been crazy. But the Iran war to begin with is crazy. It is just an unnecessary, totally unnecessary war that has been like, even like, say what you will about the United States, this was bad for all of its strategic objectives. Like, in a sense, the Venezuela thing at least sort of could be construed as being good for the US as an entity, as a global power or something. Like, this is obviously such a nightmare. And that's not my priority when I think about global events, but I do live in the US. I would prefer that the US not waste all of its money and credibility, and I mean, it's wasting everything. It's wasting all of its human capital, so to speak, because everybody is just getting really dumbed down. Like, we're not in a skill-based or merit-based economy or anything. Like, it's a service-based economy where all you really have to do is learn minimal things to participate in that economy. I don't know. So yeah, even just like, I don't like going to restaurants, but yeah, when I'm there, I'm thinking about how many millions of dollars flow through restaurants every day. Especially, like, I go to cheap places, but then there's high-end ones that, like, I'm in Providence, and if you walk around downtown Providence or other parts of Providence, there's very expensive restaurants. And even though it is I don't know, this city is a nightmare. But yeah, so you see all these people in there every single day spending like hundreds of dollars on dinner. And obviously I wouldn't know if they're the same people in there all the time, but it's such a constant flow. And it's like, wow, this is crazy, because the reason we're in Iran is because our population is totally propagandized to the point where the government can do whatever it wants with the population's resources, which are ultimately extracted from or made utilizable by those human resources at the bottom level, like at the human being level. So yeah, so it just all is this big picture of consent to be exploited such that other powers can do whatever they want with the power they're expropriating from the citizen. So anyway, I don't know. I just want to rant, I guess, about that. And what was the other one? I don't know. Well, the other thing that's crazy about the news cycle is like I don't believe it obviously, because if you, it's logically incoherent, like all the claims that are being made and then contradicted from the same sources. And it is like, in a sense, that actually can make sense in an information, like on an information globe like we're on, where like in a war, in a period, or in a time of war, I can understand this, like I can't understand this specific type of like flood the zone insanity that occurs out of Trump's Truth Social posts or anything, but there is something to lying strategically, because your statements are all being read by the enemy. Like everyone, there is literally, sort of a 5D chess thing going on there, but it's I don't believe Trump is actually doing 5D chess effectively with that information, and that's pretty obvious if you pay attention to it. But the real dark thing is just people who, I don't know, I guess this will all cohere into something. I had no plan for the show going in. I was just like, people are insane and I'm going crazy and it's making me feel bad. But now I see where things are sort of coming together, because there's these two concepts that I think about sometimes where, like, I think about this idea of a cult of information, where very few people try to ground their information in a holistic worldview. So what I mean by that is a worldview consists of many dimensions, some of which are existential, personal, moral, cosmological, about why are we here? What is a good thing to do in life? What is important in life? That has to do with the physical universe we live in and the moral universe that we live in. And also, like, bear with me because I'm just thinking out loud here. But another feature of society that is common now is living in a very limited contextual game. I basically think of it as a game. So many people's games consist of their family plus work plus entertainment or leisure time. That is it's a range of parameters for every dimension within which they live. So when it comes to morals, they have this kind of like spectrum that they'll think about moral questions on. But it's kind of detached, or it's floating, it's ungrounded from any deep truth. And when I say deep truth, like, I believe in the truth. I believe that through logic and dialectical reasoning, you can learn things about the world, even moral things about the world. I believe that there is truth in which you can ground your worldview or your opinions or your theory of history that you operate with. Because that's the thing, everyone is operating with it's not explicit for many people, but everyone is operating with religious beliefs or with a theory of history or with a theory of truth. Like they are not necessarily thinking of it on the meta level. They're not necessarily critiquing it or seeing that it is coherent, but you have it. You have those beliefs. And anyway, so when I'm here in the United States and I see the average citizens of the United States, it's like they're operating in extremely limited contexts that are also ungrounded from truth, ungrounded from reality, I would say. So For example, to use that guy who is just on his phone and, in a sense, neglecting his child. Well, like, I consider giving a smartphone to a young child to be abuse. And the reason that I consider that to be true, say unrestricted use of a smartphone, just to be totally, I don't know, all the way in one direction with it. So I consider that to be abuse because in my worldview, in my contextual frame of what a human life is and what it means to create new human life by having children, that whole realm, that whole endeavor that you can embark upon of having a child and raising a child has moral requirements involved in it. And those moral requirements say, when I think of parenting, I basically think of these two wings of parenting. And you could have someone who is totally 100% solid in one direction and lax in the other. So one direction is material welfare. So, making sure that your child has food, has clothes, has shelter, is nourished, is taken care of, is not in danger at the physical level, not in physical danger. But then there's the sort of psychological or spiritual sphere of having a child. And the primary imperative in that wing is to prepare your child to be a person in the world. That is to adjust them to, oh, hang on a second here. It doesn't matter. I don't know. Forgot to start recording this, but I can download it later. So, in that other wing, you have, this obligation. It really is, it's a literal moral obligation to try to make that child safe and sound psychologically, but also ready for this world, like ready for all of the uncertainty in this world. And you might say, well, isn't that a whole lot to ask of a parent? And no, it's not. But it does require a type of personal reckoning with one's worldview, a personal reckoning with truth, a personal reckoning with what are my religious beliefs. Even an atheist or someone who says they are not religious at all, there are things they believe about existence. Those form a de facto religious belief. So it'd be interesting to analyze our society's de facto religious belief. I think that's probably in the Technological Society somewhere. I'll look that up. But anyway, the Technological Society by Jacques Ellul. So, all right. Anyway, like I said, I'm just rambling, but when I see that guy neglecting his child, well, that's the thing. When you are in this limited frame and you think a phone is just a phone and you think a kid's, people have been raising kids for thousands and thousands of years and, and we're here now. I'm not going to fuck it up by just going on my phone regularly, but it's like kids for over a decade, for almost 2 decades, those kids are really developing literally everything. They're developing their entire cognitive apparatus for understanding literally everything. They're born not understanding. They grow, they learn to speak, they learn to perceive, they learn to reason, and it is very dangerous to take a hands-off approach to that in the present society, because in our present society, the standard operating procedure is to bring people up in this way that totally stifles so many dimensions of their being and essentially turns them into slaves. And I don't think I'm being dramatic when I say that. I think people are really numbed and convinced of things about the world that are not grounded in truth so that they can be used as economic units to sustain a system that has been in place for a while and is constantly evolving, especially technologically evolving. And, well, it would be evolving even if technology were static and not changing, not evolving. But the fact that technology is evolving extremely rapidly, it's essentially the most rapidly evolving cultural thing, period. It's like the most rapidly evolving thing. That really plays into the way that power changes over the course of generations. So right now, we are in this inflection point where we are switching from one way of thinking about the world, the sort of post-World War II consensus period, and we are in this inflection point that we don't know what's going to happen when we flip to the other side. And to me, it looks very much like a novel form of slavery. And I don't think I'm being dramatic. I think it is a psychological form of, like, the chains become psychological, the chains become invisible. It's like spiritual slavery. So, what do we got here? No, I have not read Finite and Infinite Games. I don't know who that's by. Anyway, so yeah, I'm rambling. Let me recap for a sec. I guess I'm trying to reckon these two events, and they seem so different. Perhaps on the surface, they don't seem different at all to me, but I'm reckoning the Iran war with seeing this guy at the burger place who's ignoring his kid and going on his phone. And it is just like, I think we need to better grasp simultaneity of events, because they are simultaneous. It feels so far away. The Iran war feels so far away, but people, like, bombs probably exploded over the course of the two of us sitting in that restaurant. Perhaps, it's not like totally frequent, but I'm sure somebody died in the Middle East somewhere due to physical violence in that time. And that's part of what I mean by having this limited contextual window. Like, if you can't grasp the simultaneity and interconnection of events across the globe, obviously we can't grasp all of them. But, and it's not like I would ever really go... My goal is not to go up to this guy and, convince him that that's bad for the kid, or convince him that, the reason we're in Iran right now is because of people like you. That's not what I'm going. That's not what I'm going for. Really, more what I think about it is, I kind of lost my train of thought. Hang on. I guess I just really wish more people could see these connections, because this is that cognitive infrastructure thing. This is that way that American society functions that allows power to operate without being checked in whatever way it wishes. And as technology changes, as the national spread of the globe changes, as the different poles of the world increase and decrease in their gravitational pull, in terms of political international relations, I should say, as that changes, it is just so I don't know. I really do believe, like, someone in the first world right now, like, if you have half a brain at this point and, like, a few $1,000s, you really ought to, because some people, I mean, I'm one of them, basically. Like, I don't even really have that, but, like, if we have such novel tools right now that it is extremely important to take care of yourself and take care of your cognitive well-being and become a very strong person who's adaptable and ready for basically anything, because we're entering into a new type of world order. That's not like a conspiracy myth or term or anything. It's like, there's just different ways to order the world. AI is going to change the way in which the world is ordered. Who knows what the world will look like after the Iran war? Because even this ceasefire that was announced today, it's like Trump says Lebanon is included in the ceasefire, and then Israel comes out and says Lebanon is not included in the ceasefire. So who knows if we're even getting a 2-week ceasefire? It is, I don't know. Like, Iran could get nuked. Iran could have all of its desalination plants destroyed. There's just The world is changing. So anyway, I guess let me see here. Yeah, someone says they hope that the pendulum will swing back towards thinking for yourself. And yeah, I think, well, here's the thing. I don't know where the pendulum's going. I kind of don't think at the mass level that's going to happen for decades, but the hope is that one can ultimately create a society and a culture wherein that starts to be brought back to everybody, where thinking for yourself starts to be brought back to everybody. But the real crux of the thing right now, and I've had a friend reach out to me before who's like, like we need to be trying to get, like he was saying something like, don't focus so much on trying to get people to like really improve their, I don't know, like learn languages or read or like really improve their cognitive abilities. Like we need to just get anybody reading in the first place, like try to have a broader message for everyone. And that's not my approach at all, frankly. Like I think that is a losing strategy. Just absolutely, it's a losing strategy because that pendulum is not coming back. However, we all have decision-making power. We can all switch that pendulum back within ourselves. We can all start thinking for ourselves and seeking the truth and creating networks and communication networks and even like local infrastructure networks, just like knowing people in real life, acquiring assets, not wasting your money, and trying to use that money in a way that will last in the future, in this very uncertain future. So yeah, the pendulum's not going to come back for most people. I think most people genuinely are like giving themselves brain damage 24/7. Like that's the average American and illegal immigrant in America at this point. Like that's the person you see on the street at this point. And it is, it's not good and it's sad, but here's the real thing. If people who are able to really prioritize taking care of themselves and the truth and seeking strategically to create political and cultural change in the country, then I think that we just start to all affect each other and we start to make each other a little bit stronger. And when we're doing that, we all function as lights essentially. And like, I help tons of, not tons of people, but like I help people around me and like people in my family and all of this stuff. Like in general, I would never, and this is, I don't know. I would never, this does happen to me, or if I'm selling books on the street or something, sometimes you wind up talking to like a Gen X or a boomer guy about this stuff. And it's just like, okay, well, you lost already. And I don't care to try to convince you. Like they'll start arguing with me about my beliefs. And it's like, I literally don't care what you believe on some level, because it's like the torch has been passed. However, people in my family, like, I don't care how old they are. I don't care what they do. Like, I want to help them make sense of the world. So, and people in my circle, family of my friends, things like that. Like, take care of your people. Take care of people around you. But in general, don't try to do this huge net or huge umbrella thing where you're trying to help everybody start learning to read a book again or something, because things are moving way too fast for that to be practical. I think things are way too dangerous to have that be the strategy. I think it's more about like reaching college students, reaching people in their 20s, some people in their 30s. I mean, like, obviously reach whoever you can, reach all your friends of all ages. However, if you're thinking about strategically trying to create media to reach other people, or, create events that reach other people, I do think there's, you do kind of have to start with younger people, because like I remember when I was 18, like people were blowing my mind with ideas. Like I found out about Guy Debord when I was like right after, or maybe right before I turned 18. Someone at a house show told me to check out Guy Debord and Society of the Spectacle. And I actually didn't read that full book for a very long time, but I got really into the Situationist anthology and reading about those people. Really what changed for me was reading about those people's lives. I was like, wow, they refused. They did not want to participate in society, and they still did serious philosophy. At least Guy Debord did. I could never read the Raoul Van Eyme stuff because I don't know. It was just kind of too. It's like, what if a hippie was French and a philosopher? And it's like, that was just too not for me. But Guy Debord I love. And, you know, there were other random guys in there, Ivan Chichiglov, and like, you know, just random figures. But that's the thing. It's like when you reach people when they're like 18 to 25, especially, it's like you can really open their eyes. The older you get, the rustier you get. The older you get, the scalier your eyes get and everything. And it's like, yeah, like, I mean, I'll talk to people in their 80s about this stuff if they're already someone I know, or if we meet in a random way and I appreciate talking to them, you know, go for it. But oh yeah, like someone says Henry Flint in the chat. It's like, yeah, let's talk to like Henry Flint's got to be in his 80s at this point, I believe. So you know, I don't know. That's just a little bit of what I'm thinking. I will talk a little bit about one more thing, but real first I'll do my, you know, like the video, leave a comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and especially tell your friends if you have any friends who are into this kind of thing at all. And the other big news, there's lots of news coming. I'm excited about. I don't know. I love this show. I'm glad that I'm doing it, and I'm excited to continue. And things are going to be changing and getting better. But one thing that has changed is I created a Patreon, and the Patreon is linked in the description. I will not do a demo right now. I didn't set the scene up in advance, but basically, you know, if for $5 a month you can join a group chat and you can get audio only downloads or audio only through whatever podcasting app you listen to. For $10 a month, I just got some paper and I'm experimenting with what type of paper to use for this. But for $10 a month, I will mail you something that I'm just going to call a prayer card. And it will contain, I'll either handwrite it or typewrite it. And it will be, you know, just something that I find inspiring. So in the inundation of information and stimulation out there that I receive 24/7 and then continue to receive at home because my mind recurses upon itself and exposes me to all the information again without even being in my mind's eye, it just creates anxiety in my body. So because that's the world that I live in, I sometimes like to just, when I find inspiring texts or beautiful texts, whether that is in a, you know, in a piece of literature or, sorry, I'm just checking the frame rate here. If it just looked weird for a second, but yeah, whether that's in a piece of literature or a religious book or it's a poem or lyrics to a song, I will sometimes try to memorize it by just repeating it, writing it by rote, R-O-T-E, and just writing it over and over until I memorize it. So I think that would be a nice way to, I used to consider doing this instead of bookmarks for my bookstore, where, you know, I could just give people something like this whenever they get a book. However, I never did that. So I think it makes more sense with the Patreon thing. So if you subscribe for $10 a month, then I'll mail you one of these and you get whatever else. And I think I mentioned, yeah, there's a group chat on Patreon that hopefully will get interesting once some people are in there. I actually had a lot of people subscribe immediately, or not even that many people, but everyone was subscribing for the most expensive tier. So that was awesome. Yeah, like I almost broke $100 in the less than 24 hours. So the last tier on Patreon is, it's a monthly book club. So I will send you a book because I'm a bookseller. And for $20 a month, yeah, I'll send you a book and I'll send you a prayer card, and you can be in the group chat and you can download the audio if you take the subway or something and want to listen there. So yeah, I have tons of books. This is one of my favorite covers I've ever found on a book, actually. More Than Human. Yeah, that's the boy from the burger place. But yeah, it could be anything. Could be A Clockwork Orange, Chomsky-Foucault debate, poetry, the No Theater of Japan, not Japan, The Ego and the Id, Freud, alchemy, R.D. Lang, some old poetry, Carlos Castaneda, Inside the CIA, Her by H.D. Hermann Hesse, whatever. I just have so many books. So when you sign up for that one, if you buy it, I will. Oh yeah, there's a survey, and you can just let me know what genre of book you like, or any specific stuff. There's like 10 or more categories to choose from. So, all right, all that said, I will just read one more little thing here, or at least I'll talk about it, because the other day I haven't been writing, and like there's multiple forms that writing takes for me. A lot of it is just for myself, to like calm my mind. I will try writing. So I sat down and I just wanted to write this document of what have I been thinking about lately. And to start it off, I just wrote, what have I been thinking about lately 3 times in a row. And then it immediately turned into something else. So I just kind of wanted to talk about this as a counterpoint to all the stuff I was just talking about and the insanity of everybody, because I see this as a strategy for keeping yourself sane and increasingly sharpening your abilities and all that. And just real quick, someone in the chat says, I've only gotten sharper and more capable as I've gotten older. I'm 36. I think age implies crustiness corresponds entirely on someone gaining more property plus grounding their identity further in status quo. Wait, I didn't understand the second half of the implication, or of the correspondence. Corresponds entirely on someone gaining more property and grounding. Yeah, I don't know. Well, like I said, I mean, like, I think people are, like, I was more talking about the one's hopes for the general strategy in society. And it's not going to look like an age curve entirely, but there will be an age curve within whatever shift happens, because people just get set in their ways and people get really adjusted to what is normalized as they get older. Whereas kids growing up now, coming of age now, that's like unprecedented. It's just really weird territory. And obviously lots of people are going to adapt in novel ways to that and become entirely new types of adults and everything. But yeah, in thinking about the cultural pendulum coming back and people getting more into intelligence or truth or morality or anything that's not like relativistic and hedonistic and nihilistic and self-serving and nearsighted, I just wouldn't hold my breath. And I think, however, I'm ultimately trying to create like a phantom pendulum that does come back, that eventually can maybe drag the other one back with it, like a precursor to the whole thing. But I think it's going to be like more a younger person thing. Anyway, so I was saying, so with this writing exercise the other day, I was just setting out to, I've been thinking about so many things. I've had religious experiences, I've had shifts in my thinking, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll just sit down and, make a little map, not elaborate on anything too much, but kind of like start pulling some of these threads to elaborate on later. And it is not at all what I wound up writing. Instead, I just wrote about writing because I hadn't done it in so long, and it immediately felt so good to do that I was like shocked that I had gone so long without doing it. And like, it just felt so good to write and so good to think. I felt freed from whatever state of mind I had been in before, which was a more anxious state of mind. And so, yeah, so I immediately get off topic in the text file and say, well, first of all, it's necessary to just keep those gears turning. It is necessary to write nonstop for some minutes a day, otherwise lethargy will set in. There are so many dimensions to and expressions of lethargy, which I guess, dictionary definition of lethargy is, let's see here, a lack of energy and enthusiasm. So yeah, there's so many parts of life that can be colonized by laziness and lethargy that can become corrupted and poisoned, and from then on only with difficulty overcome. Only with difficulty even remembered. Like, I ultimately overcame that lethargy and started to write, but I didn't even remember how important it was to write. It was just something I sort of had the ghost of a thought of in my head. I was like, well, writing will help me with this problem. Like, oh, writing will make sure I don't forget all these important things. But I was just dulled in my state. This world, I don't know. I don't know how it affects other people. I definitely have had anxiety for my whole life, and nothing like totally crazy except when I was depressed and stuff. But like it really throws me off track. The world just is constantly throwing all of us off track. And you get used to that, and then you're confidently living in this like misdirected state. And anyway, so only with difficulty even remembered that it's important. So only with difficulty, once corrupted, will you be able to inspire yourself to decide to act properly or decide to do the work that will matter in this world and the next, is what I wrote. So then I started writing. I guess I'm kind of just going to read this, I guess. I was definitely not expecting to read it when I wrote it, but I think it came out interesting, and it's just pulling on these threads that we have to pull on in order to keep ourselves strong and mentally fit and even physically fit. All of this stuff moves together, and it's unbelievable how much your mood changes your worldview. It is like that got hammered home for me in depression, when I was depressed and suicidal, because it sort of starts and stops. You'll be totally suicidal and you'll be like, wow, like, there's no reason. Sorry, I guess it just comes across as flippant, but like I was there, so I can talk like this. And it's like, man, like there's no reason to live. Like literally no reason to live. No one could ever convince me that there's a reason to live. But then, then the clock strikes 1 a.m. and you're like, actually, what was I on about earlier? Like, why was I so fucked up? And that was how it went for me, because in the morning I would always be depressed. I would be like afraid to go to sleep because I would be a different person in the morning and I would just feel so bad. And then like it would get to the hours where I like to be awake, and 11 to 4 a.m., 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. and I would shift. My whole worldview would shift. I would be like, I can't imagine why I felt that way. I can't imagine why I wanted to kill myself earlier. Wow, can you believe I wanted to kill myself earlier? I would say to myself, or maybe to someone else. And I will eventually kind of dig into those diaries and journals that I have, because I think it might be meaningful to some people to see that, because I have a lot of journals where I'm honestly talking about my experiences being depressed and wanting to kill myself, and then shifting and just losing my sanity a little bit, because that's ultimately what depression really is. It's this chaos. So anyway, what was I going to say? Anyway, yeah, so that principle applies elsewhere. I learned it in a very extreme situation, that your mood colors the entire world, but even now it's like, if you watch the show, obviously I care about something. Like, it might not be totally clear, but like obviously I want things to be different in our lives, in all of our lives. And like, however, just, on some level it's still sort of an issue when I wake up. Like, you lose your chutzpah, you lose your just you get pushed away from the vision, get distracted, and it's hard. So anyway, that's kind of where I go with the rest of this, because I'm talking about lethargy setting in, like rust corroding all these gears and all these different dimensions of life, whether it's thought or memory or physical movement or the cells that get stimulated by various physical movements or touch or whatever it is. Like, we are endlessly complex. And yet, to go back to the title of the video, everyone's acting like life is the simplest thing in the world and they have all the answers. That is the dominant way people engage in opinion at this point. That's kind of what I mean when I sometimes say opinion is commodified. It is something that you receive, and depending on where you receive it from, you trust it entirely and use it as a brick in your worldview. You use it to start constructing your sense of the whole world. So let me see here. And again, I'm just, this is basically, this literally is straight up my diary that I'm reading, but, I'll keep going. So I'm just thinking out loud because it's my diary. So I'll continue there. What are the dimensions here? The dimensions within which lethargy can set in? Well, there's at least one for every activity: writing and all the types of writing, stream of consciousness writing, organizational writing, persuasive, argumentative, correspondence, etc. Speaking and all the types of speaking, of using the voice, exploring the voice, singing songs, memorizing songs, speaking, memorizing speech, communicating to people, communicating with God, prayer. So writing and speaking both rely so heavily on the mind. To some degree, you can let them run freely, animalistically, like with the body. Or like, I guess that, like through dance or through expression like that. Not really something I do. But, and I was trying to think of a speaking version of that. I do some vocal exercises before the show, and like I explore my vocal cords and the sounds that my voice can make, and it's a very interesting and grounding experience because I've never been a singer, and suddenly I'm like, wow, there's so much my voice is capable of that I never use in my life, really. Anyway, so another thing, sorry, I'm editing this slightly while I'm reading it because some of it just doesn't really make sense to say out loud in the order it was written. It's a little disjointed. But I think of the TRE exercises, takeover of the muscles, and imagine a similar version of like get it out version of stream of consciousness writing, where you just kind of like, you can't like literally write or type as fast as your mind goes, but it's kind of the closest thing you can get to just like like tremors of the mind, tremor expression of the mind. So, and that's what TRE exercises are. It's like a trauma, anxiety healing exercise that uses involuntary muscle movement to release tension. Anyway, so keep going here. So yeah, all of this relies on the creative and associative and imaginative aspects of the mind, but they also rely on the memory and the feelings and the senses that are external or environmental, and internal or bodily or mental. So far I have many types of writing, many types of speaking that I've listed. Let's do away with the material world for a moment and deal with the many types of thinking: controlled attention, controlled concentration, focusing on one thing for a period of time, whether sensed or imagined, exploring the memory, releasing thoughts as they enter in, returning to the breath, thinking parts of the body, like entering into parts of the body through your attention, because the nervous system, it's a body spanning thing. You can make your mind sharp enough to enter into parts of your body in ways that we just are not accustomed to because it's not required. We're in a very visually dominant society. If you can see, you can kind of operate in our worlds. You don't need to feel your feet or anything like that. If you can use your legs to get around. So anyway, I guess I'll just keep reading this. I don't really know what's in here, but yeah, concentrating deeply on sensations of the body thinking, being led by the body to other movements. But now I'm getting away from that first constraint and creating a new category: body forwardness versus thought forwardness. And what I mean by that is sometimes, like if I'm doing yoga or something, the body sort of starts to convey what needs to be stretched next or what movement needs to be tried next. Yeah, so, and you can think in prayer, you can bring the mind to avoid. Those are two different things. You can exercise the visual capacities of the mind, creating vivid details, vivid pictures. Let's move to only the material world for a moment, but not in a dissociative manner. Consider being, this is where I describe that. Consider being guided fully by the body as one might be guided to sleep, although the hypnagogic activity at that point is usually high. I imagine the few times I've been, hang on. Yeah, I don't know. That's just what I said before about like yoga inspiring, like body forward thinking. It just is kind of deciding for you what should be done. So, move this over here. Okay, so this brings me to that first idea that I started with, that lethargy works uniquely in each dimension, but collaboratively across them to blind us to dimensions of experience. This is the fundamental thing that we need to never lose sight of because it operates under our overstimulating and influence-heavy society. So what I mean by that is when we're in this highly overstimulating and desensitizing society, so it's a society that through its overstimulation, you need to adapt to operate at a certain threshold of receiving stimulation, whether it's, being around speeding cars out in the world or being around a whole bunch of people in your office. All those things create stimulation, and you learn to operate at a base level, so you don't feel anything below that base level. That's what I mean. And so there's all this stuff that is operating underneath the level where we typically start to even start thinking about who we are or start thinking about what we can feel. And then that is where we start to operate in the world. So why does our media exposure affect us so greatly? Because we have had our foundation rotted out from under us. We have lost this thing that could ground us and ground where our sensations are coming from, atrophied through a culture that does not cater to that. And that's kind of related to the father on his phone in the burger place, where you are neglecting to bring your kid into the fullness of life. And obviously that's not literally implied by his behavior, but there are so many things normalized at this point in child rearing that do that. It just is a fact of our culture at this point, that the children are not being brought up in a way that exposes them to the full depth of the possibilities of experience. And thus they're what's the word when you, like, I don't know, break an ankle or like tie down a donkey's ankle or something. There's a good word for that. But anyway, they're getting stunted. So anyway, so how has that been rotted out? I don't know if I really like how I describe this in here, but how has that been rotted out? By our ability to adapt to new modes of life. If we were unable to adapt, or we didn't have this immense enculturation that is made to adapt us and does so extremely efficiently, we might be looking with full context at our situation and with fine conscience at it, not blind to its intolerability, not blind to its contingencies. So what I mean by that is we are adjusted to tolerate things that ought to be intolerable. And this is kind of how you raise that threshold for people to deal with temperatures that they shouldn't even be able to sustain. And we're blind to its contingencies means that we are not dealing with the people are very accepting of the status quo, and they're very accepting of the current power situation. And that is, that it just all plays into it. So I say, so we have a culture of people losing all awareness while their worldviews, self-esteem, relations with others are all furnished by nonstop media exposure, first hand, second hand, infinitely recursively, just over and over, third hand, fourth hand. None of this is tolerable for more than a moment when you open the contextual window all the way. And then I say, anyway, that barely touches on all the rust that creeps into my life, keeping up social relationships of all kinds, practicing my skills and my instruments, keeping my creative mind afloat, habitualizing anxiety treatment, habitualizing an ability to work, to live fully. And then I just have like a personal note to myself about I don't want to be lulled to sleep and taken advantage of, essentially, by this highly exploitative, expropriative society. And, and as a Catholic, the way I think of that is I need help from existence. I need help from God. I can't have a total control mindset about it, which I'm not really prone to, but it is like, there's a sort of, this is like a Taoist concept as well, a sort of letting go that allows you to move forward. Like, in a way, if you always have your face on God, you will operate fine in the world. So I don't want to be desensitized or thrown off track, distracted, misdirected. One more thing I just wanted to comment in there though was when I said, oops, what just happened? Oh yeah, so none of this is tolerable for more than a moment when you open the contextual window all the way. And also, none of it is necessary when you open the contextual window all the way. Like, when you understand how deep life really is, you start to get defensive about what is intolerable, what should not be trampled on. And when you start to open that contextual window, you start to see that it's not necessary, because you start to see how things change and how things come to operate. Like, I remember talking to a couple people who were voting for Trump in the last election cycle, and they asked me if I was, and I said, no, I don't want war with Iran. And they both were like, that's preposterous. And it's like, okay, well, I haven't checked in with either of those people. I think I will soon. I think I will see what they think about that now. I was told, one of them told me politics was about winning. And yeah, so that's a type of brainwashing. No offense. I love you. If you're watching this, you're a great guy. But it is, the brainwashing goes deep. We are in a total propaganda society, and it's not a homogenous propaganda. It is a homogenizing propaganda, but the way that it operates and the way that it homogenizes is in our difference. And this is a great thing that was foreseen by Guy Debord in Society of the Spectacle, is everyone comes to essentially behave the exact same way while having perhaps very different beliefs. Like, that friend of mine had sort of fringe right-wing beliefs, and whereas the other person was more just like a boomer conservative in my family. So that's like, two pretty different belief systems, and yet they did the exact same thing, and they led to the electoral situation working out the way that it did. There's something about propaganda and its diverse forms, but it creates ultimately what it creates is an influenceable population, so that as things change and as different things are needed to extract from that population, they can be taken, they can be done. So, all right, I'd appreciate if you like the video, subscribe, whatever. Someone says, gotta love the Junto. I appreciate that. And yeah, I'll be back Thursday night, Friday night. And another thing I was thinking about, just since I'm on here, was I kind of like, now that I'm getting used to Patreon, at first it was pissing me off because it just I didn't like the interface when I was setting it up. But now that it's set up and, and I've let it fly, it's flown the nest, now I'm kind of just keep thinking with it about different things I can do with it. And I think it will be good, because I think I'm going to kind of use it as a Substack. I don't want to have like a million things. Like, I don't want to also be on Substack. I think, while Patreon's working, I will start using it as a Substack, and I can have like earlier drafts of things be just for paying people, and then I can have like, for paid members. But then when something's finished, I'll just have it be open and downloadable and printable, like as a PDF, like in zine form. Because I've written one zine, like just a short little leaflet, a single page 20 paragraphs about what phones do to the mind. And I think it would be great to start refining some of these episodes into arguments, into, yeah. Okay, so yeah, this comes all the way back around to people being crazy, because I was thinking to myself, hang on a sec. Because in the midst of all this insanity, I was thinking to myself about those first two like major things that I wanted to do with this show, which are, I want it to be so clear and so easy to describe what is going on that it just becomes undeniable. And it's never going to be undeniable to everyone, but to smart people who are interested in the truth and think logically and really care about life, I want to create these arguments, these demonstrations of what is going on that just make it so clear and so easily ingrained into me and into anyone, to just be like, just so you can see through the lies and see through how manipulated everybody is, because it is everybody. Everyone is manipulated. There's no getting out of it. Some of us can just try to be a little bit less manipulated, a little bit more grounded. So, and the other thing is, goes hand in hand with that, is just to delegitimize like everything that is normal right now that is bad for people, that is bad for the world, that is anti-life. Just delegitimize it. The institutions, the cultural artifacts, the ways of living, all of it. So those go hand in hand. But in light of just the war and everyone being the way that they are, I felt renewed in that side of the mission. And that's something you have to do in writing. That's something that writing is always going to move forward with. You need feedback from people. So I look forward to doing something like that. And, that's all I got. So thanks for tuning in. And yeah, have a good night. And I'll see you on Thursday. No shows on Wednesday. See you on Thursday. Thank you.